Hey everybody, welcome. How you doing tonight? All right. I'm taking that as good. My name's Tyler. I work here as the director at the Poetry Center. It's nice to have a crowd. Thanks for being here on a Thursday night. We're thrilled about this night in particular. We have two amazing fiction writers with us tonight, Rodrigo Restrepo Montoya and Fernando Flores. And this is a collaboration that's in partnership with the Creative Writing Program at the University of Arizona, and this is the Distinguished Visiting Writers Series. You're going to hear more about that, but it's a joy for the Poetry Center to be able to partner with our colleagues across campus and close collaborators and to be bringing fiction into the world for you all, which will happen with these guys shortly. I want to point to a couple of things that are coming up at the Poetry Center and let you know about them. 2 more readings that will happen in February. So next Thursday at 7 o'clock, we'll be back here with the poet Annie Winstrup, who has a first book out called The Museum of Unnatural Histories, and then Lena Kalaf Tufafa, whose 2024 book, Something About the Living, won the National Book Award. So they're paired together. They'll be here next week at 7 o'clock at the Poetry Center. That will be a great one. I hope to see you guys here for that. I feel like my voice just got louder when I got back to the microphone, which is the note that I'm remembering to tell the writers, that it works best when you stay next to the microphone. And then after that, on February 26th at 7 o'clock back here at the Poetry Center, we have our annual Morgan Lucas Schultz reading, where we celebrate new and emerging writers and writers working with innovative structures. And so we have the poet Susan Nguyen and her first book that has come out, and then the poet Andrew Grace will be here as well. So both of those on the upcoming Thursdays, 7 o'clock, back here at the Poetry Center. True to form, we're going to skip a kind of traditional Q&A after the reading tonight, but books are for sale, and both of the writers would be happy to sign those after the reading, so avail yourselves of those books afterwards. I know the booksellers will be happy to sell them to you, and then the writers would be happy to meet you once the reading is done. In a second, I'll welcome up Paco Cantu, who's going to tell us more about Rodrigo, but I want to also make sure that I'm going to introduce Aaron Cerda, who's going to introduce Fernando in between. And so just to give you some context about Aaron, he's a third-year MFA student here in fiction at the University of Arizona working on some short stories. Thesis time is happening. So when he comes up here, applaud for that work because he's working on it and getting this done. He is from the deep south of Texas, and he primarily writes short stories. And he does this in collaboration with a demonic writing partner who's Monty, which is his dog. So more about Aaron. You'll see Aaron come up and introduce Fernando in a moment. But before that, I'm going to welcome up Paco Cantu, who's a writer and translator and author of the memoir, The Line Becomes a River. He's an assistant faculty member here at the University of Arizona in creative writing, and he is co-director of the field studies program that takes writing students into the field to do important work around issues in southern Arizona and in other places around the country. Please help me welcome up Paco Cantu.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I always like to joke with Tyler that he's introducing the introducers and introducing the next introducer after the introducer introduces the reader. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I want to speak before I introduce Rodrigo. I want to talk a little bit about the Distinguished Visitors in Creative Writing series. This is a really long-running series, actually. I think it goes back to the early 2000s. I see Allison nodding her head. And it's a series that is curated by creative writing faculty, which don't usually curate the readings at the Poetry Center. The Poetry Center is its own entity. We're the teachers in the creative writing program that curate this series. And for a long time, it was called the Prose series because we were like, oh man, like the poets are getting a lot of love at the Poetry Center, but we want to bring some prose writers. And it's a really, we have like an illustrious past. David Foster Wallace has read here, Cherie Moraga, Dennis Johnson, Christina Rivera Garza, George Saunders. So, you know, heavy hitters. We've been bringing heavy hitters to town for a long time. Tonight is no exception. So in the fall, we're going to do like a little bit of a relaunch, reimagining of this series. In the past, many of you have been to these readings. We've done alumni readings as part of this series. So we're bringing people who graduated from our program as MFAs, and we always like lump them together, and they have a reading where we celebrate them. So now we're trying to like integrate them with these heavy hitters so that we can put our MFA alums in conversation with these other writers who are out in the world every time you come to a Distinguished Visitors in Creative Writing reading. So the reason I'm telling you this is kind of like the part that gets like a little bit like NPR fundraising drive. So one of our alums who actually read here last semester, you may remember him, Josh Riddell. He pitched in some funds, a matching challenge. Right now, the U of A is doing this Giving Day Challenge, which the reason I'm talking to you about this is it was supposed to end today at noon, but they had some technical difficulties. So they have extended the challenge, which is great for us tonight. So they're extending the challenge, which means you could give if you want to, if you haven't already. And if I had known about this, I would have like made a QR code. Is that what people do? So you're gonna have to find it. You're gonna have to Google. You're gonna have to Google Distinguished Visitors in Creative Writing UA Giving Day Challenge. Try to remember some of those words. And then when you click give, there'll be a drop-down list, which is confusingly the one you want to select is the Creative Writing Fund for Excellence. Just remember creative writing. That'll get you there. That'll get you there. Creative writing, that's what we do here. So, okay, the NPR part is over. Now I'm going to tell you about Rodrigo Restrepo Montoya, who's about to read. So, I first met Rodrigo Restrepo Montoya at a coming out party. It was a coming out party for a desert tortoise. A desert tortoise named Juliet. And Juliet was coming out of hibernation. I had been to a party for Juliet's coming out the year before, and maybe even the year before that too. The thing is that Juliet doesn't always actually come out from under her rock at these parties. They're anticipatory parties. In fact, I don't think she's ever actually come out at one of these parties. Usually she emerges a few weeks later once everyone has gone and the warmth of spring has grown a little bit stronger. Someone who did come out for this party, however, was Rodrigo. I did not know then that Rodrigo was the author of The Holy Days of Gregorio Pasos. I didn't know that his work had appeared in the Kenyon Review, The Offing, or in Diagram, shout out to Diagram, U of A, or that he would later be named a finalist for the 2025 DAG Prize for Literature. I also didn't know that his partner, Morgan, was a novelist too, working on a book with the coolest title you've ever heard, The Oldest Bitch Alive, which is about a dog. Look for it next month. It comes out next month. But anyhow, to me, there in Juliet's yard, Rodrigo and Morgan were just a couple of cool guys, friends of a friend. Sometimes when I meet cool people who also happen to be writers, I almost don't want to know what they write because, I just want to be friends. The way that we used to be friends with people before it mattered what we did or what we wrote about. And for a while, things went according to plan, and I remained oblivious to Rodrigo's writing, meeting up with him to watch Champions League soccer matches or inviting him over for decidedly unwriterly hangout sessions in which we mostly played video games. I remember one night playing Mario Party. Every time it was Rodrigo's turn, he would sit straight up and make everybody stop talking to him, saying that he needed to lock in, as he ignored everyone else in the room to focus on, rolling his dice or chopping an onion or swinging on a vine or whatever else you end up doing in Mario Party. And one thing's for sure, Rodrigo is good at locking in because he definitely kicked everyone's ass that night. And y'all should watch out because I see him locking in the front row right now. Anyhow, a few months after this, I finally bought Rodrigo's book. And I ended up reading it in a pretty locked-in environment, as it happens, during a self-made writing retreat at a Benedictine monastery nestled at the end of a canyon deep in New Mexico. The Holy Days of Gregorio Pasos opens in Tucson. A 21-year-old goalkeeper is reflecting on his life after a soccer injury. His thoughts turn to the years he spent adrift as an 18-year-old in Washington, D.C., with the first Trump presidency roiling in the background as he struggles to place himself within an immigrant identity in a time of xenophobic upheaval. The book hit close to home. I once lived in Washington, D.C. when I was 18, in college during the Bush years as the Iraq War rattled on and the power of border hawks grew in the halls of Congress. I probably felt more adrift in those years than I've ever felt in my life. And as I read, I saw myself clearly in the book's narrator, Gregorio, who seemed like a past self I had almost forgotten about entirely until cracking the spine of this book under the red walls of that canyon with the sound of beaver tails slapping against the waters of the Chama River in the distance. It's no surprise that I had largely forgot about that time in my young adult life, a time when our heads are filled with questions about our place in the world. Here on the grounds of a university, this time is a perpetual present. As Gregorio prepares to say goodbye to his father before a visit to Colombia, he worries about leaving his old man alone with all of our ghosts. He means the ghosts of an immigrant family. But the ghosts were here first, Gregorio's father tells him, as if to let this young person know that there is no life without the churning questions of who we are and where we come from looming overhead. All there is to do, his father seems to imply, is to decide when and how to come out from underneath them. Please welcome Rodrigo Restrepo Montoya.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay in the back? Yes. Thank you so much, Paco, for that introduction. Thank you to the Poetry Center for having me. Tyler, Paola, everybody. Thank you so much. It's a really special place. I've been here many times, seen many writers, many of my favorite writers, and yeah, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be reading with Fernando as well. Thank you so much for coming. Very happy to be here tonight. I'm not going to be reading from Holy Days. I'm going to be reading from a new novel that'll be coming out next year. It's called Bruto. It's about a retired soccer manager from Spain, recently widowed, recently retired unexpectedly, recently immigrated to the United States, and recently remarried to a woman half his age as well. So this is his story. Because it's the Poetry Center, I'd also like to read a poem, which is the epigraph for this book, by Miguel Hernandez. It's a very short poem. Body over body, land over land, wind over wind. Ode to Joy. No cures, only remedies. That's what I told Ines last night while I ran water over the cut on her palm. I said it again as I applied the ointment. Same with the bandages, same with the gauze. We were falling asleep when I heard her whispering to herself. No cures, she repeated, only remedies. She woke me up a few hours later to ask if she was going to be okay. Your hand will heal itself, I said. All we need to do is wait. I slept okay. No dreams except for the song that got stuck in my head yesterday evening, the song that was playing inside the town's only pharmacy. Ode to Joy. No, nothing memorable came to me while I slept. No past lovers, no childhood friends. No work, no missed flights, no emergency, no plagues. Only the same old melody. I still can't get rid of it. Even with the sun coming in, these birds outside screaming, the mountain wind pushing the tall trees. Fine. The song will leave on its own. Early June, but cold as usual, even under all these covers. A weekday, Tuesday maybe, or Wednesday. Ines got up at dawn, I know that. She left a mess. Dry blood under 2 pillows, and more on the heavy blanket she keeps to herself. Ines, I say? Nothing. Ines, I call? Not a sound. The gauze must have unraveled in her sleep. The 3 butterfly bandages must have come loose. It's not her fault. It's not mine either. Ines is always rolling around in the night, humming and mumbling, dreaming of God knows what. Other lives, probably. Some better, some worse. Another man, maybe, a man her age. Fine. Her dreams, however great and terrible they must be, are her business. Same goes for everyone else. I let my dreams come and go. Old promises, death threats, betrayals, they all like to stop by. They stick around for a few minutes and then they're gone. Every other night, the dirt road that helped me leave home takes me back that same way. Every morning, too. Like now. All must come, all must go. Floods and droughts, they take turns. A person only has two jobs, pretty much. Wise up and hang on. That's it. I've wised up, I've hung on. To what exactly? To dear life, I guess. These sheets need to be replaced, of course. The blanket, too. We'll buy new ones. The same exact ones. Gray flannel, green stripes. They'll be on the front porch by noon. I'll order them when I get up. Soon. Not yet. 10 more minutes here. I'm tired. I'm used to sleeping better. All my life I've slept well. If I drift off again, so be it. Whenever I end up getting out of bed, the first thing I'll do is place the order, if Ines hasn't already. I'll buy 3 sets of each, the same exact colors. That way we'll be ready when the time comes to change the bedding again. Easy, simple, no problem. Everything can be replaced. These sheets, this blanket, this bed, this house. Every person can be replaced too. People hate hearing that. They hate knowing it, probably because it's true. People hate lots of things. Ines, for example. I don't like blood, not at all, but she really hates it. And last night I had no idea how much. The way she ran into the kitchen, screaming and sobbing, I was sure she'd lost a finger. Poor Ines. Her hand shook as I opened her fist to clean the cut across her palm. A long, straight, shallow line. I've never seen her so scared. I would have taken her to get stitches if she hadn't begged me not to. I can still hear her. You promise, Carlos? You promise? You promise? Ines is funny. Fear of needles, fear of mold, fear of swimming, but no problem marrying a man like me for money, freshly widowed and twice her age. No qualms about volunteering on the crisis hotlines, saving the lives of suicidal strangers for free. And no nerves about spending every afternoon with a horse 10 times her size, either. The horse is why she got hurt. Ines was cleaning her beloved animal's hooves when he kicked her left hand away. The hoof knife made the slice, but it was his fault. Fucking polvo. That gray Cartujano cost me a fortune. Then he tried to kill my wife. The horse wasn't my idea. I never go near him. Ines wanted him. She chose him. His dumbass name, too. She chose it over the English version, Dust. I guess polvo does sound better. Most horse names are stupid, of course. Sun Tzu, Spartacus, Magna Carta, Oligarchy. Polvo's a better name than all of those, obviously. It's Ines's mediocre Spanish that gets under my skin. She gets Polvo's name wrong. And mine, even her own. My English isn't great, I know that, but I like to think I'm aware of my limitations. According to Ines, I have a keener sense for the shortcoming of others, especially hers. That's what she said to me last week. I am what I am, I said. And what's that? She asked. A brute, I said. Maybe you're right, she said. We left the conversation, the argument at that. Ines hates when I call myself a brute, whether I'm trying to be honest or funny. I usually try my best to be both. Honesty without humor gets people killed. Humor without honesty gets people nowhere. Bruto's my real name, pretty much. The world's called me Bruto for 30 years. Half my life, more. Everyone calls me that. Everyone but Ines. Laura gave me that name. She was a journalist when I met her. Soon after she became my wife. Bruto, she'd say. Laura's been dead 3 years and I can still hear her voice. Always will, I'm sure. Sometimes it comes when I'm awake, other times when I'm asleep. Or now in this strange space between the two. Or when I talk to Elisa. She's just like her mother, for the most part. Same face, same voice, same quiet ways. My eyes. Laura died alone in the best hospital in Madrid when her lungs failed her completely. I was only a few kilometers away, trapped in the 2-story penthouse we'd shared for decades. Ines was across the Atlantic, trapped in the apartment in Bogota, doing homework while she waited for a miracle. I begged the hospital to make an exception and let me visit. They refused. I offered them a lot of money, but the law was the law. The plague was everywhere. In Spain, we dropped like flies. Laura's sudden death was one of thousands, millions, really. Every now and then, when I'm very tired, or half asleep, or a little drunk, I lose the plot. Instead of saying Ines, I say Laura. Ines doesn't get angry when this happens, just depressed, thank God. I'm sorry, I say. I mean it. I understand, Ines says. This, of course, is a lie. The truth is, Ines will only understand me when I'm dead and gone. She's not in denial about my mortality. The opposite. Ines is more locked into my death than I am. She's always reminding me that I could die any day now if I don't take better care of myself. She's not wrong, I guess, technically speaking, but my doctor told me otherwise. He said, "You're doing pretty good." He recommended more exercise, less wine, and no cigars, but said my body was holding up well for 57. Everything's working, he said, just keep moving. I've got 20 years left, probably. 30 if I'm lucky, 50 if I'm not. Thousands of days to do God knows what. Pass the time, I guess. Ski in the winter, watch football, visit the town diner, tend the occasional fire, shoot pool, sleep in, take naps. Our marriage isn't incredible, but it's going better than Ines realizes. I know what she'd hoped for, but I'm not sure what she expected. We get along, we have sex. I've been faithful. No children so far. Not yet, anyway. Ines wants them. She hasn't brought it up for a few months, but she's made it clear she wants at least one together. We'll see what happens. God knows I don't need another child. I already have Elisa. Maybe I should have a second one. I don't have a great excuse not to. Money isn't a problem. I'd lose sleep, that's for sure. But I guess I do have the time. I could hold the baby, love it, drive it around, take it places, make it laugh, teach it what I know, clean it, feed it, grow it until it's strong and smart, or weak and dull, or drunk and crazy, or mediocre and ungrateful, capable of severe highs and lows, good and bad grades, fatal accidents, and near misses. A boy, maybe. That'd be great. Or not. My father was 45 when my mother had me, and I ended up hating his guts. He loved me in his own way, but he hated me first. I don't want that. There's no need for all that. A child isn't a solution. It's just another person, that's all. A stranger that looks like you and sounds like you and thinks like you. I don't know. Maybe it could all go well. Maybe everything will be fucking terrific. I won't get in their way. I never do. All I do, all I've ever done, is mind my own business. The thing is, I'll age quickly. That would be Ines's biggest problem, and that would be the kids' biggest problem too. If they ever even make it into this world. Old age is ugly. Sickness and deafness and appointments and wheelchairs and opinions. A bunch of pain and bullshit, that's what's coming my way. All that and then good night forever. And then what? Elisa and Ines split the money, of course. There's plenty. Then they'll find ways to be sort of happy, or give in to misery, or fall somewhere in the middle, most likely. Marry, have kids, remarry, buy houses, take trips. Whatever this family looks like down the line, odds are I'll disappear from memory eventually. If I'm lucky, I'll become an anecdote. Maybe my ancestors will gather here, in this house, at this table, for lunch, in the year 2100. Maybe someone will mention that the house had belonged to a football manager in the family, born and raised in some abandoned village in Spain. Was he any good, someone will ask? He was okay, someone else might say. Good, not the best, controversial. They'll pull me up on the internet using my name and epithet. Carlos Mora, Bruto. Either should get the job done. Then they'll pass around a few television stills from the thousands of matches I managed. My curly black hair a mess, my arms crossed, my face sour. Accurate portraits of my younger self, to be fair. A man Laura once described as handsome enough. Maybe they'll be able to tell what's lying beneath those photographs. The sincerity, the desperation. I'm sure someone will. It only takes one person to understand you, really, even if you're already long dead. I put my pain to good use back then when I coached, even if football is nothing more than a child's game. I always have. Since I was born, the only difference between myself and most of the other boys was that I had some common sense and some conviction to go along with it. That and all the bitterness necessary to forge my way through that horrible industry. Degenerates for the most part. Liars. Frauds. I was born into it, in a way. Not football. I had no connections there. No plugs, no back doors. What I was born into was my nature. My hot blood. That's what's carried me forward. That's what served me best. Terrible, too, at times. But there's no question it's given me everything, even if it's taken plenty. Nothing is free. Every day has its cost. Every decision, every word. Life, like football, is a simple game. You are what you are, you do what you do, you get what you get. No one gets it all, and most people don't get much. My father, for example, I didn't choose him, and he didn't give me shit. Neither did my mother, whoever she is or was. No brothers, no sisters. The land I was born in, the land I was raised in, was its own kind of heaven and its own kind of hell. A ghost town, really. Fucking Pios. 100 idiots and me. Ours was a cold house, made of stone, surrounded by 10 acres of dry hills and grape rows. The middle of nowhere, pretty much. The edge of La Mancha. My father loved to hear himself tell me, someday all this will be yours. I didn't want it. I didn't give a shit about his vineyard or his cheap grapes or his bad wine. Staying put was never an option. Every now and then, Ines tries to use her degrees in psychology to, as she puts it, get to the heart of the matter. What does your inner child want most, she asks. The truth is my inner child already got what he wanted. He got a career in football, a few trophies, a beautiful wife, a good daughter, and money. I was big. A few drops of blood on the bedroom rug, a few more on the bathroom tile, and a single dot on the toilet seat. Jesus Christ. I'm following my doctor's orders and sitting down to piss. It's essential for the bladder to empty completely, he said, especially at your age. Fine, I told him. I don't mind sitting. I whistle Ode to Joy as I make my doctor proud, just as Mozart intended, or Beethoven, or whoever it was that went deaf and kept on composing anyway. I guess it doesn't really matter who did what. 300 years later, and the song still lives, here, on my toilet. Was the guy deaf when the song came to him? How deaf? Completely? I don't know. Who cares? I think it was Beethoven, the crazy-looking one. I think the song was his fault. Ines, I say? No answer. The house is still. She's probably in her office. Maybe she's with Polvo. I hear nothing except for the birds, and the ceiling fan, and the ice forming in the freezer, and my bullshit tinnitus. No coffee in the pot, no dishes in the sink, only one car in the garage. Ines must have gone out for something. Breakfast, maybe, coffee. I could use both, that's for sure. I'll sit here in the kitchen. I'll wait, patiently, as always. For Ines, for the day. Through this big window, I'll watch the trees rock back and forth. When we first moved in, Ines was sitting right here next to me when she said, "Isn't it nice to see the wind?" The cut's on her offhand. She should be able to live like she usually does, pretty much. No note in the fridge, no text message either. "Good morning," I type. "How are you?" Ines is usually quick to respond. She's always on her phone. Elisa's always on her phone too, but she takes her time to get back to me. She usually responds the next day. Sometimes it takes her 3 or 4. Every now and then she forgets or refuses to answer at all. Just this past Christmas, she spent hours of the holiday on her phone. I remember wanting to point it out to her, the fact that she'd been ignoring me. A younger me probably would have said it without thinking. Instead, I said to myself, someday she'll get it. She'll regret it too. That's how I let it go. It was an okay Christmas. We spent it here in Sisters, our second since moving to Oregon. Elisa brought her girlfriend. Partner, that's the term they use. When I say girlfriend, Elisa makes a point to correct me. Ines also loves to jump on my mistake, as usual. Excuse me, I say, partner. Her name's Kate. I like her. I love her. I really do. The lesbian thing doesn't bother me at all. She and Elisa get along well. They're both very similar, like best friends that are in love with each other. I guess that's the ideal situation. They're both vegetarians or vegans. I don't remember exactly. Oat milk, tofu. Sometimes they walk in the woods looking for mushrooms. They brought a bag full of chanterelles for Christmas, a very special gift, apparently. We fried them in a pan with some olive oil and garlic, and the truth is they were incredible. Elisa and Kate live together in a 3-bedroom house I'm happy to help pay for. A few months ago, they adopted a fat chihuahua named Pepita, a little dog I still haven't met. I'll meet her soon, I'm sure. Maybe they'll make the drive for Father's Day next weekend. They have the time to make it work. If they want to come, they will. They aren't exactly busy people. None of us are. As graduate students, Elisa and Kate receive some money from the State University in Eugene. Otherwise, they don't work. The whole move out to Oregon took shape when Elisa decided to pursue a graduate degree. More school, I asked. Not really, she said. I'll be teaching him writing. Writing what? I asked. Elisa said she wasn't sure. That was fine by me. She could write whatever her heart desired. So long as she's alive and happy, I'll be happy too. That's what I told her, right here at this kitchen table. I also reminded her I'd pay for everything. Thanks, I think she said. Something short and cold like that. Lisa's similar to Ines in that way. She thinks our relationship isn't as strong as it really is. She doesn't understand that I'm the only person on the face of the earth that really wants what's best for her, no matter what. That I'm the only person who knows and understands and loves her and expects nothing in return. Fine. Maybe she'll realize the truth soon. I hope she does before it's too late, for her sake. There's time, though, probably. God knows it moves slowly out here in the mountains. Ines and I decided to follow Elisa out west, but we didn't want to be too close, either. The town of Sister was Ines's choice. She learned about it on the internet. A blog post, I think. I had input, too, of course, but my requirements were simple. Peace, quiet, and a mountain to ski. That's all you care about? Ines asked. That's it, I said. We both got what we wanted. I got my peace, my quiet, and a ski mountain with some of the best snow in the hemisphere. Ines got a nice big house, a new car, a new horse, and a path to go riding, a path that leads to many others, some paved, some not. Our life here is a private one. The previous owner was a tech investor from California. He built the house with the vision that he and his children and his grandchildren would all be happy together forever. Turned out they didn't use the place at all. I never met him. I never spoke to him either. Through his realtor, he offered to include pretty much everything inside the house for a reasonable price. Ines had imagined a parade of interior decoration, but the price for the full turnkey was too good to pass up. It's easier, I said, cheaper. Since then, Ines has changed some of the furniture out. Lamp by lamp, side table by side table, armchair by armchair, she'll get what she wants. Recently, she said she wanted to paint the walls a more natural shade of white. They're too bright, she said. I said, we'll see. Neither of us have made much use of the tech man's toys. We've never touched the climbing ropes, the carabiners, or crash pads. The kayaks and paddle boards belong to the spiders. The game room has a pool table. Sometimes I play, alone mostly, against myself. The tech man even left behind some woodworking tools. Kate inherited those. She saw them in the garage when she came for Christmas. All excited, she asked me what I used them for. I'll never use that shit in my life, I told her. You can take them. She said it was the best Christmas present she'd ever gotten. She promised she'd make something for me, a mailbox or a birdhouse, but I haven't received anything yet. Maybe she'll bring something for Father's Day. I know her dad passed away a few years ago. She's more than welcome to celebrate with Elisa, Ines, and I, if she wants. She can bring the gift then. Not that I need it. I have everything and more. Too much, really. This house is too big. A bunch of vacant space without any real purpose. Empty beds, empty drawers, dusty bedrooms for hypothetical children, hypothetical grandchildren, and miserable in-laws who, if they ever were invited, would find 20 different ways to complain. The view's what I enjoy. The house faces west. At night, I see some of the brightest stars of my life. Every day, I wake up to the sun shining on the Cascade Range, the Three Sisters, black and volcanic and dormant, one of them in particular, I forget which, ready and waiting to erupt. When it does explode, I might be here, sitting at this kitchen table, front row seats to the grand finale. Any day now, an earthquake will hit somewhere in the nearby Pacific, starting a wave that will decimate the coast. The truth is, this land in Central Oregon is just like my part of Spain. This was Spain too, of course. Not very long ago either. New Spain. Sometimes, dizzy from sleep or wine, I feel like I'm back on my father's vineyard, in La Mancha, in Pios. Here, many disasters are natural. Eruption, tsunami, wildfire. In Spain, our disasters are mostly man-made. Like most of us, I'm a descendant of war. My father's lineage wrought with piety and politics. War was what they knew best. Growing up, some of the country's scars were plain to see. Palaces in ruins, Franco and the corrupt king. Others remained hidden. By the time I'd been born, the graveyards had been veiled by tall grasses and scant open fields. War is everywhere, always has been. Now I know just about anything can go wrong. Disaster is both sudden and slow. It belongs as much to man as it does to nature. Disease, for example, cost Laura her life. I blame my neighbors, I blame the economists, I blame the presidents, I blame the earth. I'll never understand it, this world. I think I hate it. I've loved a few people, that's about it. A few have loved me back. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aaron, as Tyler mentioned earlier. I'm sorry I didn't bring Monty. He doesn't appreciate the arts. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, this is my third year in the MFA, and for 3 years, I have been asking to bring Fernando Flores to the university to read. Actually, I just want to talk to him. You didn't even have to read. I just wanted you here. And for 3 years, I've been told, maybe. And finally, in my last semester, we got you here. And I'm so excited. In fact, when Manuel told me that you were going to be here, my response was, oh my goodness, is this the apocalypse? I think I hear the sounds of heaven. And that's probably still true. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked up at the sky yet. Please tell me, somebody, at the end of this, if the world is ending. This might be a dream of mine. But as I've been saying, Fernando has been an influence on me for a while. We're both from South Texas, which, when I discovered, I was incredibly surprised by. Because my entire life, I've been told that, nobody comes from South Texas. Nobody. The only person that did was Gloria Ansandua and the lady who directed Twilight, who hated the Valley. She was like, it's a cultural cesspool. And who knows if she's right. But I'm also glad that Fernando was there to prove her wrong, that it's not a cultural cesspool. That being said, he did abandon it and go to Austin. Yeah, I should probably talk about his work. Valleyesque is my personal favorite of Fernando's work because it does take place in the Valley and focuses on the Valley. And I've assigned it to my students for 3 semesters in a row. Do they like it? I believe so. They wouldn't tell me otherwise, but I think the thing that they do value is the craft of it. We spend so much time talking about the creativity, the absurdity, the word choices. We spent an entire 30 minutes one semester talking about the word stamped in one of his stories, instead of stomp, we said stamped, and we spent 30 minutes just talking about that, and I was so excited. And I think I annoyed the class, but that's fine. They paid to be there. Brother Bronte, which has been recently longlisted for the Penn Faulkner, which round of applause for that, please. I've only had the fortune of reading once, and that's the lowest of any of Fernando's work that I've read, in part because my copy is being held hostage by a friend of mine, and I will not return it, or they will not get it back until I return her Anne Carson, which I have kind of lost in my move. So maybe I'll buy another Brother Bronte today, which I encourage you to do. Fantastic book. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than like, he is my idol, and welcome Fernando Flores.
Thank you so much. Wow, I was so moved by that. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you so much to the Poetry Center, everybody here. Thank you, Paco, for inviting me. Thank you, Tyler and Paola, for all your help. Thank you all here for showing up and being a part of this community. You know, super special to be given the opportunity to share one's creative work, to be given the space. So I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you all so much. It's my first time in Tucson, and I love it here. I'm gonna read to y'all an excerpt from Brother Bronte, my latest novel. Whenever somebody is about to like introduce like their work or talk about it, like introduce a passage that they're gonna read, I always immediately black out. So I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna read, I'm just gonna read it. Thank you, everybody, once again. Neftali and Proserpina raced across the supposedly haunted pedestrian bridge over the busy intersection of 4th and La Cuchilla, then sat down to catch their breath at the far edge of the embankment. The onyx smokestacks from the fish cannery whirled in the distance against the scattered patches of purple smog. Yellow, low-flying clouds often moved through the streets like packs of giant dogs, lapping up windows, leaving muck residue to harden on the pavement. Proserpina pointed at a burning mass in front of the old tamale shack and said, "You see those gnarly fires happening constantly now? What do you think everyone's burning so much?" "Probably garbage. What do people expect? The fires never get that big or grow out of control inside the city anyway, and people gotta get rid of their shit somehow. Garbage is piling up, stinking everything up, right when we'd figured out the rat problem, too." They loitered where the pedestrian bridge met the embankment to look down upon the gutted, abandoned tractors and the mossy brown Apollo statue on the grounds of the burned-down elementary school. Neftali had memories of reading short story anthologies by the statue's immense feet when she'd attended the school as a girl. At the same spot, Proserpina had first met the man who sold her the carbon papers and emulsion to forge ration cards. The brown Apollo statue seemed to raise its arms in a flex as Neftali and Proserpina wandered the charred foundations on the property. With the skeletal remains of the gymnasium behind him, Brown Apollo watched as a thick ground-level cloud approached Neftali and Proserpina from the direction of a discontinued bus stop. Laughter and the whirring of tires and gears were heard, as if the whale-sized turmeric-colored mist had hidden wheels and levers operated by giddy, sadistic gnomes. There was another sound, like an empty can of soup trying to sing. And as Neftali's eyes focused on the silhouettes emerging from the cream-thick haze, she made out the bad doom metal, all treble, playing out of a small, possibly broken speaker. 4 souped-up tricycles rushed by them, grazing their arms in canvas bags. Proserpina immediately recognized the riders as the 4 boys she'd teased before they stopped at Doña Julieta's. She chuckled to herself, and it took all her strength not to say the first thing that came to mind. They were inside the belly of this yellow mist, lost in an artificial desert dust storm, and hard-pressed to see anything beyond its organism. The oxygen thinned, making it somehow easier to inhale the industrial pollutants. Doom metal continued chirping from the miserable little speaker. Then a voice said, "Surprise, surprise to see you sneaking into New Freeway, Neftali. Maybe you recognize your neighbors here. They caught me up with what happened over at your house last night." The voice fluttered out of Santo as he rode his fixed-gear bicycle like it was a miniature donkey with shuffling hummingbird legs. He wore a denim jacket with torn sleeves, old skinny jeans, and shoes with missing laces. "Your old drummer Proserpina here too? Very special. And where's big money machine Alexei?" Santo continued. "Bring in the old bass player, get a whole band reunion going. Surely he must be looking for old bubblegum wrappers to convert to dollar bills. Or maybe it's shit-stained toilet paper squares today." The tricycle boys were clearly amused by Santo's variety of humor. He sat taller on his bicycle than the boys did on their tricycles, and Neftali quickly gathered that they made up a small gang. Dry axles begging for an oil reprieve could be heard creaking louder and louder from somewhere within the devouring mist, as if the gears were trying to fiendishly laugh too. Proserpina grabbed a stone by Brown Apollo's sandaled feet, tracked the speaker hanging from one of the tricycle boys' shoulders, and pitched it at a calculated moment. The speaker fell, hit concrete. The doom metal stopped. Plastic and metallic guts spilled out unceremoniously. Santo and his small gang were one of many units of boys sweeping Three Rivers, wreaking their brand of havoc on the population. Their antics came handsomely rewarded by Mayor Pablo Henry Crick. Ever since Crick's administration has started deploying book shredders to average citizens, boys like these had carte blanche to find and discard books that the Three Rivers authorities had missed. A large boy emerged from the haggard fog, pedaling with the strain of Sisyphus, barely making it over the cliff. Behind him, strapped onto a flat wagon with those pleading, thirsty axles, sat a mechanical beast with 4 wide, sharp, well-fed mouths, like a savage prince being promenaded through the jungle, waiting for fresh grapes for dessert. 2 of the tricycle boys stepped off their rides, approached Neftali first, made as if they weren't afraid to put their hands on her. Don't make this hard, Neftali. Just hand over your bag. What are you gonna do? Feed your machine my shit? What's in this bag is all I got left. In 3 flashes, and perhaps blinded by the immeasurable depth within the lurking mist, the 2 boys effortlessly snatched Proserpina's bag, then slipped off Neftali's like a choreographed magic trick. Santo emptied both canvas bags at the feet of Brown Apollo, like an offering among thieves. Even within the diffuse sunlight, inside that abnormal, low-flying cloud, the 2 books that fell out of Neftali's bag were clear as day. The boys' faces all wriggled into large smiles as the largest boy unstrapped the 4-mouthed oblong shredder from the bed of the squeaky wagon, balanced it on the uneven school grounds, then yanked on the cord to start it up. After plenty of unsuccessful yanks, Santo ordered to clean the gasket. You're really gonna do this, Santo? Neftali, do I look like a politician? It's the law. Bullshit, Proserpina said. All right. Let's switch places and you are me. And you find me here carrying 2 books when a literacy permit is required and strictly enforced. Now, seeing as how you know the person with said books, what's the nicest thing you could do without having to call the bosses? Listen to the way he talks, Neftali exclaimed to the other boys, unable to contain her disgust at Santo's words. We've both learned how to read in a class together once upon a time. You don't need to invent lies, Santo cracked, as the large boy finally got the shredder's 4 mouths chewing, complete with thousands of microblades crunching, spinning, and shrieking to be fed through the miasma. Now that you've considered my point of view and given your lying nature, what would you do in my place? Santo yelled. He reached for the book on the ground that appeared the most seductive to him, the hardcover. He traced the embossed title with his right middle finger, Understanding Urban and Agricultural Hydraulics. Then slowly flipped through its pages, pretending to be interested in the knowledge it offered, despite the young women. Proserpina noticed Neftali shaking and felt that her friend was capable at any moment of making the rashest decision. In the blink of an eye, Proserpina imagined flying sparks involving crowbars, machetes, and all sorts of vengeful madness. So upon returning to the present moment, she harbored an urge to keep the peace. And in the friendliest tone, she exclaimed, that book can be useful to somebody, even if you think it's trash. Why destroy it? Neftali missed these words, looking up as Brown Apollo's torso and head seemed to descend on them with the passing of the yellow cloud. And for a sliced moment, she indulged her innermost fantasies of why the 2 of them had even stopped to visit this monument. She imagined Brown Apollo approaching them with his cast iron muscles and their conversation turning immediately to galloping horses. The difference between the wild horses on the Pampas and the horses by the shores of bombed South Padre Island. Brown Apollo would give them tips about wearing seashells as masks. Proserpina and Neftali would brainstorm questions for Brown Apollo to take advantage of this rare close encounter with a god. But mostly, they'd want to have a chill time with him, to have drinks and watch Italian movies about ancient Greece with the divine bulwark himself. This was the delirium Nathalie found herself in as she watched Santo feed the nearly impossible to find hardcover copy of Understanding Urban and Agricultural Hydraulics, meant for Bettina on her birthday, to the buzzing, chomping, four-mouth book shredder. It surprised most people, despite repeated first-hand accounts, that the machine's microblades pulverized the book entirely, dust blowing in the wind after the procedure, like a wildflower bouquet's ashes. Brown Apollo seemed to turn away his head, perhaps in disgust, or perhaps reluctantly agreeing with the perspective of the young man and the book banning laws. Santo thumbed through the remaining dog-eared paperback. Ghosts in the Zapotec sphericals, he read aloud from its time-yellowed title page. By Jasmine Monel Rivas. She's correct about one thing, boys. I was one of the last to attend this burned down school. Learn how to read here. So take it from me. You're not missing much. Thank you.
One more big round of applause for Rodrigo and for Fernando. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. So books are for sale over here on my right, and I know the writers will be happy to sign them. We'll hope to see you back here next week on Thursday for Amy Winstrip and Lena Tufafa. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for being here.